Good day, podcast community. You are on the virtual KPI summit with key persons of influence. My name is Pete Kane. Professionally, I go by Podcast Pete. Everybody but my mom calls me that. So, we're on our first virtual key person of influence. What we have planned for you today through the next hour and a half is bring in 10 speakers with 15 talks. These are 5-minute, 3-point talks. The reason we do 5 minutes is we wanted to respect your time and we want to deliver a message that'll be helpful for you. 3 points is all the brain can really handle. And when you put 3 talks together, you get a TED Talk. And we're going to have a speaker on our virtual key KPI summit who's done a TED Talk. So you get to learn from a person that has done it. So just to start out, I'll just give you, we'll flow through this. This is our first time. So if you're patient with us, and we'll try to deliver the most value for you, the listener, you, the person that's wanting to be a key person of influence. Because if you recognize this paradigm shift and you can position yourself as a key person of influence, the world win will be behind your side. We also have a gentleman that's going to help you to protect assets, because if you don't protect your assets, you have nothing. And we're in a digital economy. We're in a digital revolution. And Richard Reimer will be with us shortly to be able to help you understand the value of protecting your assets, because years ago, it wasn't that important, but it is today, because everything is about a digital asset. Now, we have 5 trends, and I want to go over these 5 trends for you so you understand the context of what we're talking about when it comes to position yourself in front of trends, not when they happen and then say, boy, I wish I would have taken advantage of these trends. You have the first trend, digital asset revolution. See, we came out of the industrial revolution pretty quickly. Now we're in a digital, and it's been going on for a few years. It's not like we're just starting, but you have to, the best time to have started the digital revolution was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The next best time is now. And that's why we want to help you to position yourself and think globally, because we have a team in the Philippines that's 13 hours away. They had to put these slides together early. It's not that we could put them together at the last minute. So they won't be in sequence because we put this together quicker than most. And you have to lean into being uncomfortable. And that's kind of a theme that we have on a regular basis. The entrepreneurial revolution is happening. And the book here is by Daniel Priestley, The Entrepreneurial Revolution. Everybody, it's never been easier to start your own business, because if you got a computer, you got a message, and you know and understand a strategy, you can be an entrepreneur. Is it easy? No, of course not. It's tough. It's real tough. You got to be uncomfortable. Like the speakers that you hear stepped up. Did they know everything? No. When they first became key persons of influence, but they leaned into it. And by leaning into something and being uncomfortable, you're doing something others won't do. The third revolution is the crypto revolution. We won't get into that today, but you got to understand, we are moving from paper and you can manipulate and print more money. And we do in America. We print as much as we can. And what happens when you print unlimited dollars? The value goes down and inflation goes up. But when you have pure currency, 21 million coins, that's it. Can't print anymore. The value is going to continue to go up. Is it going to be volatile right now? Yes, because you're at the early stages of a revolution. And I've done other podcasts on it, but there's possibilities for you to create generational wealth with just that one revolution, one strategy. More on that, but I want you to lean into these revolutions. It's on we like to say, a need to learn. If you will learn more about what's happening, you'll be able to position your business in a better way. But nobody can tell you what to do. You have to want to know this. You have to want to be in the front end of a revolution. You could say, I don't need to protect my assets. What the heck? I'll just put them out there. That's not the best strategy, because if you don't have assets, you have nothing. So that's why you want to think about protecting them and understanding. Evolution. If you haven't heard about AI, you're probably under a rock, because it's all over the place. And this technology is going to change the way you do business. It's going to change how you do business. We employ this to streamline and take care of like 80%. It'd be like if you could do the 20% that you're good at, and 80% of the heavy lifting is done by something else, you're going to be a whole lot more effective. You're going to be able to create value faster. And AI is speed. And you got to know how you can apply it to your small business, because you can't just hear all this stuff without applying it to get the results in your business. And my partner, Jeff Bourgeois, which we'll go over in just a minute, not a minute, later in the summit, the value of applying this to a small business. And the last one is the mobile revolution. This has been going on for a while, but everybody's got a supercomputer. Everybody has a supercomputer in their hand. So we're going to go to our next guest, because we've been talking about assets. We've been talking about digital assets. And you're going to want to listen closely to Richard Reimer. So let me introduce him. I'm going to move to his slide real quick, because I don't know if it's in order. Hold on here. There we go. Okay. So, Richard, welcome to the show. Let me properly introduce you. So, Richard, we did a podcast probably 2 years ago, and I knew when I had him on my show, there was something unique and different about what he was doing with small businesses. I didn't understand it completely, because I wasn't part of a digital revolution. I wasn't in it. I was just starting a podcast because my partner said, man, Pete, you love golf, so do podcasting. So I started. But as I got more understanding of how important it is to protect your assets, Richard's name kept coming up and up and up. And finally, I said, man, it's time that our community know more about protecting your assets. And Richard has dedicated his life to helping small business owners. Now, plenty of people protect their assets. Nike protects their asset, Apple protects their assets, but we're talking about small businesses. And he's devoted his time to helping you understand the value, because if you have and understand this, you're going to be much better. So, Richard, thanks so much for being here, and the show is yours.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I remember when you first met me, you'd heard my name a few times, and we're in the same room, and you ran up to me, and I'm glad you made that introduction. It's been great to get to know you and your audience. And as Pete said, today I'm going to be talking about intellectual property. And unlike the slide, I think the slide might be from a prior time, but as Pete said, we make it work. I'm going to be talking about why protecting your brand matters. How you protect it, when you protect it, those sorts of things, or other topics altogether. But protecting your brand is usually overlooked. I think that brand protection, especially via trademark law, is incredibly important. because today we're in such a competitive marketplace. The importance of safeguarding your brand just is paramount. Whether you're an entrepreneur, small business owners like I represent, or you're a big brand, safeguarding your brand cannot be overstated. This is the way that the public identifies you and the way that people understand exactly who you are. So, what are some of the things? There are many reasons. I could take a whole hour on this, but today I'm going to talk about just 3 reasons I think safeguarding your brand makes a lot of sense. So, first and foremost, is safeguarding your brand allows you to defend your brand. So, imagine for a second that you spend a lot of time and money developing your brand. And then someone comes along and says, you can no longer use your brand. What do you do? How do you defend yourself? And remember, a brand is not just a catchy slogan, it's not just a name, it's the thing that the public looks to. It identifies your values and the promises you're making to the public. So this is a pretty important thing, and having to abandon that is going to be something that's going to be really challenging for you. So when someone challenges your use of a brand and you have a registration, it shifts the burden. No longer do you have to prove that, yes, I have a right to use it. Now they have to prove, no, you do not have a right to use it. This registration is a public record. It defines clearly exactly what your rights are, and it makes it much easier for you to say, hey, this is mine, and I have an absolute right to use this. So this is a very proactive way to make sure that you have your rights in order. And also it could save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of stress when a dispute arises. And I say when, I really should say, I'm not saying if, I'm saying when, because I see disputes all the time. It happens with small businesses way more than people like to admit. The second reason that you should really think about brand protection is it can stop others from using a similar brand. Now we're not talking about defense, we're talking about offense. At first I said when someone challenges you, now when you want to challenge someone else. So again, imagine that you spent a lot of time building your reputation and suddenly someone comes along and says that you have it starts confusing the marketplace using a very similar brand, and you see a lot of your value eroding. Either customers are now going to the competitor, or maybe they're not doing as well and your reputation is going down. This could be really, really detrimental to a business in so many different ways. So having a registration makes it much easier for you to challenge someone else and make them stop using the brand, so you can stop that imitation, that negative association. So it preserves your market position and also sends a clear message that you take your brand right seriously. So even ahead of actually having to challenge, as people are looking to think what brand they want to have, seeing your rights out there in a registration or otherwise proving your public rights out there deters people from wanting to use your brand. So you have sort of 2 advantages there from an offensive position. One is someone does challenge your brand, or someone uses a similar brand, you can challenge them much more easily. And 2, it's much less likely that someone will want to challenge your brand if you have registered rights. Finally, you can monetize your brand. I think that today's economy, having a strong brand is one of the most valuable assets a company can possess. When you're taking steps to protect it, you're safeguarding your interest, but you're also making a strategic long-term investment. Brands appreciate over time, and a well-protected brand can significantly increase the value of your business. There are different ways that you can monetize a brand. People think about licensing, franchising, partnering with someone else, even using the asset of the brand as collateral for a loan, or selling the brand. When an investor or a business person is looking at buyers looking to invest in or buy a company, making sure that they have a very definable, very defensible right is something that's way more likely to sell than having a right that you're not really sure exactly what you own. So again, registrations can help you monetize and increase the value of the monetary value of your brand. So in conclusion, protecting your brand matters for several compelling reasons. Allows you to defend your identity, prevents others from using similar brands, and could harm your reputation, and it transforms your brand into a valuable asset. I encourage you to ask today whether or not you're doing everything to protect your brand. If not, start. The question isn't whether or not you should protect your brand, but how much are you doing to make sure your brand is truly the asset it deserves to be. Thanks for your time, Pete.
Man, that was awesome. Hey, Richard, it's so important. I know you, given you're in the business, of course, you're going to talk to people about protecting their brand. But if our viewers will go to this book by Daniel Priestley, which is Key Persons of Influence, he has chapters on the value of protecting your assets. He preaches it every single time he can because it's the only thing you have when you have an entrepreneurial business and you're in the digital age. So I want to encourage our viewers to lean into this and understand how valuable it is. We'll put links in the show notes so you can get a hold of Richard. I'm not quick enough to put his information up on the screen, but we'll have somebody monitoring that in future virtual summits, which we'll do every Saturday. But I want you to reach out to Richard and explore why you need to protect them and talk to him about it. That's so important. So, Richard, thanks. You'll come back and do the other one we had up there. So, Richard, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we appreciate you sharing this with our viewers.
Of course.
Okay, so now we have, we're going to stick to a legal theme here. Our next speaker is a woman of influence. This is a person that's on a mission to help people, women and others, to understand having access to the legal system, having the ability to be a person of influence. She has a podcast. I've been on her podcast. She's been on mine. The service that she represents, I've had for 10 years, probably 12 years, 13. I don't know how many years, 20 years. No, I've had it for about 20 years. And if anything I keep, and I've had to scale back for various reasons, I keep her because you want to be protected. You only have access to information to protect you if you know where it is. So, Wanda is a woman of influence. She's a person of influence, and she's going to share with, and I'm going to see if I can get it up here. I know I have it up here, Wanda. Hold on here before I bring you on. I should, no, let me bring you on first. There we go. Okay, now I'll find your slide so our viewers can know who is talking to them. Okay, here we go. There it is. Protecting yourself and your business. Wanda, thank you so much. Saturday morning, everybody's sleeping in, but the key persons of influence don't sleep in. They get out there and they make it happen. So thank you so much, Wanda, for being here. Please share with our viewers protecting yourself and your business.
Thank you, Pete, so much for having me on your in the community. I appreciate you bringing me in. So let me ask you a question. My name is Wanda Pearson, by the way, and you really pumped me up, Pete. I appreciate that. Thank you. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever faced a situation where you didn't know if you needed a legal help, but you wish you had someone to guide you? Think about that for a minute. Well, maybe it was signing a contract, dealing with a dispute, or protecting your personal information. Today, I'm sharing 3 key reasons why protecting yourself and business legally is essential. The 3 points are access to the legal system, affordability and leverage, the strength of a legal community. So let's talk about the access to the legal system first. For most people, legal systems feels complex, overwhelming, and out of reach. Many don't seek help because they assume it's too expensive or time consuming, or they procrastinate. Think about everyday situations like disputes with a contractor, a landlord, or even an unexpected legal document. Without access to a legal guidance, small issues can quickly escalate. Sorry, I'm trying to get my mouth together here. When you have access to the legal system, you have confidently make informed decisions to resolve issues faster and avoid costly mistakes. Let's talk about the second point here, affordability and leverage. So legal protection doesn't have to mean emptying your savings or your pockets. By finding the right resources, you can protect yourself and your business without the hefty price tag. Affordable legal access also gives you leverage. Imagine negotiating contracts or resolving disputes with confidence without knowing you have with knowing that you have expert support in your corner. That kind of leverage can save you time, money, and even relationships. For example, consider this. Having a lawyer review a contract to save you from agreeing to unfavorable terms. It's not just protection, it's power. Never sign a contract without you having an attorney review it for you. Uh, let's see, let's talk about the power of a legal community. A legal community isn't just about having one lawyer, it's about tapping into a network of experienced professionals across different areas of law, whether it's business law, estate planning, or personal issues. The right legal community offers specialized expertise. You're never alone in facing challenges. Having that collective knowledge and experience on your side means you're always prepared, no matter what life or business throws your way. So, in conclusion, access to the legal system, affordability, and the support of a legal community aren't just nice to haves, they're game changers. They give you the confidence to protect yourself and your business, making smarter decisions and handling challenges head on. Take a moment to think about your current legal preparedness. Are you truly protected? It's never too late to take that step towards securing your future. My name is Wanda Pearson. Let's connect because collaboration is the key to success. Thank you, Pete.
I love that, Wanda. Wanda will say collaboration a lot, and that's really a key word is collaborating. You can't do it alone.
Yes.
Having people like Wanda in your circle of people that you rely on. I mean, I've had it for so many years now. When my girls were in college and they were getting speeding tickets, I was getting to know my attorney really
Yeah.
well because I met him in court or talked to him on the phone all the time because I was asking him to help. Because if you don't have help, your insurance rates would go sky high. So, anyway, so we'll put in the show notes information on how you can get a hold of Wanda to have a person of influence in your circle of friends. So thank you so much, Wanda. We appreciate you being on. Thank you for being with us on a Saturday morning. We appreciate that.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Our next speaker, this happened late last night. So we didn't even have a slide for her, but this person has she is a key person of influence. I moved into a senior community back a couple of years ago. It was just a last minute thing. Man, did I make a mistake? But that's a story for a different day. I didn't have Jonah. I didn't have an expert. I just did it on my own. And when you do things on your own, there's consequences to it. When my friend Ran Eberhart kept telling me that I needed to be plugged in to the Atlanta Senior Care Network, and he kept telling me about John Butler, and I was going like, "Dang, Ran, are you like, is he your dad or buddy?" I didn't know, but he kept saying you got to meet John Butler. Now, when I went, I did meet John Butler, a wonderful guy. But with John was Joan, and it was like if you ever see two people who just kind of like get along, you just understand the chemistry is special. She's a leader, she's competent, and she's out there serving in her community. So when we talk about senior care, you want Jonah in your camp. So let me see if I can find her. I know she's on. Okay, she won't have a slide. Let me see what I can do here. Hold on, Jonah. I'm going to bring you on just a second. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I haven't had, since I did golf, I haven't had more than 4 people. Hold on. Let me get something up here. And right after Jonah is going to be our TED Talk expert. Okay, we'll just put this up here. Okay, hold on here. Okay, I'm almost there. There we go. There's Jonah Payne. Yes. Jonah is the person of influence. So, Jonah, thanks for being here at the last minute. We really appreciate it. Next time, we're going to have a slide for you for our viewers to understand. But if you wouldn't mind sharing with our viewers, you know, what you bring to the senior community and why it's so important to have you in their what do you call it? In their whatever,
Corner.
you know what I mean. Corner. No, that's good.
Right.
So Jonah, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it. And it's been really lovely getting to know you for the past year or two that you've been a part of it. I'm glad that Rand connected us. But yeah, like you said, having someone in your corner is really, really important. So I have been in the senior living industry for 15 years. We're in our 10th year of our company, and I am a senior advisor. And what I do is I help families find senior living and housing for independent living, assisted, personal care, memory care communities in the entire state of Georgia. I've personally been to over 900 communities in person myself. And the good thing with us being in business for a decade, we pretty much any single community that you pass that says 55 and up, we are partnered with, we can work with, and we can help. The three things that I was thinking about of why it's really important, like Pete was saying, to have someone in your corner is people don't know what they don't know. And it's a very vulnerable position to be in, to not know what to do, who to call, where to go, and who to call. And you're trying to make decisions for your most valuable, important person in your life, whether that's your parent, your loved one, your spouse, anything like that. And it's a very vulnerable position to be in, to be telling someone about your whole life, your assets, and things like that. That is, people can take advantage of you. So I try to say the three things when I thought about it is one, the curtain pull is pulling back, providing clarity and understanding of what is the cost of senior living, what is the types of senior living, how is it covered, how is it paid, when to do these types of things, really understanding and not sugarcoating the back end of a community and the industry at large, and providing that intel that someone may or may not know. I had a family the other day that said, why didn't you recommend this one community that was 5 minutes away from my house at less than that? And I said, their executive director walked out, their nurse walked out, and their salesperson. I don't even know who's running the building and taking care of these residents. And he would have gone in blindly, talked to someone, had no clue, and may have noticed right away or not. But those are types of things that we try to provide, is that intel, understanding, and clarity. So that's what I call the curtain pull. The second thing is time saver. We're all very busy. And like Pete was saying, with automation, speed, things like that, we don't have enough time to gather this information. How would you be able to find that intel? You can't. And I had this lady that was like, oh, thank you for the list of options that you sent me. And I was talking to her yesterday, very passionate about it. I said, no. We are not sending you a list. You can go online. You can do those things online. And she was trying to call through all these. I said, no, we go through each one. I have been with these communities. I've interviewed them. I know the owners. I know the leadership. I am trying to spare you time and understanding. And every question that she had, I was like, I can answer. And if I can't, it's very, very rare, but I'm going to get to the person that can, to figure these things out, to help her understand and save her time. And she's a stressed caregiver. She takes care of her kids. She's having to do the housework, and she's taking care of her husband. And it's just too much. So time saver, getting that information fast with efficiency and intel. The third thing is a good night's sleep. And what I mean is, you can know after the two things, having the curtain pull and the time saver and understanding all of those things, you can lay your head at night and sleep with peace, knowing, hey, we unturned every rock, we investigated every option possible, and these were the best communities and options for them. Or if your hands are tied and you can't make your loved one move because they're not ready, or the timing, or they're refusing, things like that, at least when you go to bed at night and you're up and all these stress and guilt and shame and everything that's swirling around in your head, worry, we can eliminate that and say, okay, you've got peace. We've done everything that we could. We did the homework in advance. And then now, whenever something happens, call me. And so those are really the biggest things, is pulling the curtain back, being a time saver, and having a good night's sleep, and having someone really be in your corner, being an advocate for you, helping you negotiate the pricing, helping you know what's the best thing for you, and really feeling like you have more confidence to take charge of the situation, that you may not feel like you have the confidence or the strength to get through it, or even the knowledge of doing it. And then everyone walks away, whether we help them or not. Every conversation said, I learned something. You made me feel better. I'm not alone. And we are in your corner. I said, the light at the end of the tunnel is dark. Let me be your flashlight.
Dang, that was so good. Every time I hear you speak, I'm amazed at how many people try to do it on their own. And it's kind of like you're trying to fix a plumbing in your house and you're not a plumber, and all of a sudden the house floods and you're wondering why it happened because you didn't call a certified plumber. It's why. And I have my friends. I'll ask them, and they're looking for a place for their mom or dad, and they're doing it alone. And I'm going
Mhm.
like, you don't have to. There's professionals that do this for a living, and they'll walk you through the mess. And it is a mess because I wanted our viewers to understand that if you're in California and you have a cousin in Texas, no, a family member scattered all over the country, trying to get on the same page is not easy. When you
No.
have to, so that you got to have a professional, and you can be able to have that professional guide you through that process. So, Jonah, thank you so much. On the screen is her contact information. I just figured this out after I was going like, I know I had her on my podcast. I know I have this information. So you can go to her website. We'll put it in the show notes too. And so you can get a hold of her. And if you need help in this area, seek help, seek Jonah. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Our next speaker is gonna be, this is like, oh, let me take this off. Okay. I'm gonna put this up because this next speaker, as I introduce her, hold on, let me find this slide. I'm trying to get to when when they say guys can't multitask, they're right. We can't. Okay, let me get this up on the slide. Okay, here we go. Okay, and let me introduce Christy to you. So, Christy, I was introduced to her through a coaching friend, and now she's my coach, high performance coach. But when I saw her name, it's what I do for everybody. I Google them. It's not what we say ourselves, it's what people say, it's what Google says about it. Well, first on the Google search was a TED Talk. My eyes about, now I don't know if eyes, I couldn't believe it. And so I listened to her TED Talk immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, if that isn't a cool story. And for others that are out there, kind of like if you've never like experienced, speaking, the TED Talk is like the Super Bowl of speakers. It's like you want to be at the TED Talk. And this next speaker is going to help you. She's my coach. And just so you understand, we have an ecosystem, and the third step in our ecosystem is high performance coaching. I've had two others before Christy, and guys are guys. We're guys. But that sixth sense of girls or women or whatever you want to say, because I have two sisters, two daughters, 5 granddaughters. So I got a sense of it. But when you get coached by somebody like Christy, who's a high performance coach, it's totally different. She'll help you navigate not only through the dreams of having vacations, dreaming of things. We talked about it yesterday when she went with her husband on a riverboat cruise. They were like the youngest people on the cruise. And we teach in key person of influence and having a lifestyle business. Don't wait. Don't wait until you're 65 and can't move around, or do it now. do it now, reward yourself. So we have like every 5 weeks, we have a mini vacation planned. Did I know that before I started getting coached by Christy? No. So I have a double benefit. Not only do I now have getting more balance, I have like my sights are on a TED Talk. So if you want to know how to do a TED Talk, you got to learn from somebody that's done one. It's kind of like you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to have, and you're a quarterback, Tom Brady's going to help you do it because he's won so many. You want to learn how to be, oh, I should have put Christy up here. I don't know why I'm just rambling on. So here we go. Christy, thank you so much. Christy's a little bit further away than most. So she'll tell you about that. But Christy, she's a key person of influence. She's a person as a high performance coach, and she has a travel business and has for many, many years. And she's done a TED Talk. So look up her TED Talk. We'll put it in the show notes. So Christy, thanks so much for being with us. We weren't able to change the slides out. So this is from her talk she did at our live event this Saturday ago. So Christy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. And that's the great thing about today's virtual world is I help people, I call myself a journey facilitator, help them get to where they want to be in the world through travel and in life as a high performance coach and speaker, and really achieve the things, help them get where they want to go. And this is a perfect example for me. If you think of these three things, I'm going to share writing a book, going to Italy, and delivering a TEDx talk. Well, those were all three big bucket list dreams and goals. Some are in the world and some are on a stage or holding my book in my hand. And those are all bucket list goals of mine and that I've achieved lately. And a lot of you have these big dreams, these bucket list goals or dreams, and merging my love of travel and what I know in planning trips. And then as a high performance coach, when we merge all those things and that experience, I do it, as he mentioned, in a unique way, as we do when we travel and plan a trip, because life is about the journey and enjoying it. So the example I'm going to share is how I delivered a TEDx talk. And when we travel, if you think about a trip that you've been on, it opens your mind up to new things. You enjoy it. You see things in a different way. And I like to explore things in a different way. I call them flips. My TEDx talk is the flip side. And it's exploring the flip side. It's the flipping point, how to reach the flip side from no, I can't to yes, I did. And so I'm going to share how I did that through a TEDx talk. Flips, if you reframe things and you change your thinking, you can actually change your outcome. And the first flip that I'm going to share is when you go from wanderer to explorer. A lot of us, we might have a goal, we might have a dream, and we think we'll get to it someday. You know, we have plenty of time. And just as Pete mentioned earlier before, we shouldn't wait till someday. When you think about planning a trip, you set a date of when you're going to do it. And as a travel advisor, I ask a lot of questions in order to figure out what is the best destination. So this goal of having a TEDx talk was the destination for me. And it was this goal. And so getting really clear on what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to deliver, because TEDx talks are looking for different perspectives, unique ideas, and then finding a place to do it. Often they have a certain theme and they have to align with that. And then there's an application process that you go through. And so I did a lot of research and exploration on the front half, so I knew what it was I wanted to talk about and where the right spots were for me to deliver them. So getting really clear is the first step. And then as I got accepted, that was step one, and that was super exciting for me. And then the real planning began. So you've got the date of when the TEDx talk is going to be, and now I plan just as I would plan a trip. I set my outline and my outcome of what I wanted to deliver. And you've got to do it in only 18 minutes, which it seems like a lot, but it's easy for me to talk about a concept and deliver it in an hour keynote. But in 18 minutes, it can be difficult. So you really have to plan and refine that. So the next point I'm going to make and how to do that and how I did that is from the daily grind to the daily find. When we get really clear on our destination, for me, this is the TEDx talk. I've got the date I'm going to deliver it. Now I have my departure date, if you will. So now I'm going to map out my next 90 days, and I tend to do things in 90-day increments. And this might seem like, how is that possible? Where do you find the time? Well, that's part of what I do as a high performance coach is we really get clear on what it is we want to achieve, how we're going to get there, and map it out accordingly. And you would be surprised that when there's that clarity from that exploration we did just prior, you can get there and do it in an efficient way and not just take on one more thing and grind away and not enjoy it. You can be very specific and thoughtful of how you plan that time, because we should have the adventure along the way and not just the grinding it out. And so it's these stopping points, these thought points along the way that we plan, that is really important, because it shouldn't just be about getting to the destination. The planning portion and those days leading up to it should be just as fun and as much of the part of the adventure. So life shouldn't be lived from vacation to vacation or weekend to weekend. The process in between should be just as fun. And that's really important. As I mapped out the TEDx talk, I refined it, I practiced it, I had some little stop points and celebration points, and then really got clear on how I could get that done in 18 minutes. And by doing so, the last point is by goals to great. So if you've ever achieved a goal and you finally get there and you think, well, that really wasn't what I thought it would be. Similar to maybe a trip, you maybe followed somebody else's recommendation. You got there and it really wasn't what you expected it to be. Well, if you've done the proper steps before, you are really going to not only enjoy the journey, but you are going to have that great outcome of not only achieving your dream or your goal, but it's going to feel great. And you're going to just really be able to celebrate it and carry that forward and take that momentum that you've gained from doing it into the next 90 days or the next journey. And that's the best part about travel is when we have a good trip, we're already planning the next one. And so I absolutely love doing that with people, combining those elements of what we love about travel and a vacation and helping them achieve those 90-day goals. Like for me, it was this TEDx talk, and that was an absolute dream to be able to do that. And now I get to carry that momentum into the next thing I'm doing and help other people that have big bucket list goals, like writing a book or delivering a TEDx talk, and help them map it out as their guide. And I would really love to help anyone that has those big dreams and goals and be your guide.
Oh, thank you, Christy. Dang, every time I see the TED Talk up there, I kind of get, wow. I know two people personally, yourself and another person that have done a TED Talk, but it's kind of like we all that in the speaking arena and in the personal development arena look to TED Talks as being, you're right, 18 minutes flies by. So does 5 minutes. And so 3 5-minute talks can be almost a TED Talk. So that's why we want 5 minutes, 3 points for our viewers to be able to enjoy. And thank you so much for being here. I'll put in the show notes because you're going to hear at the end our ecosystem. And the third step in our ecosystem is high performance coaching. And coaching is one thing. It's better than not having a coach. But high performance is like the TED Talk versus just being out there and talking. It's the highlight of anything. You can get high performance, then you're on your way to being a key person of influence. You're on your way to living a life of high performance. So thank you, Christy. Appreciate it very much. We'll put everything in the show notes for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to be with us. All right, our next speaker, before we bring him on back, I wanted just to bring, okay, here, I know I have it. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. Let me see if I can let Christy out of the show here. So oh no, I lost her. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm trying to get you. So we won't let you. There we go. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Christy. Okay, the next is myself. Now, I had a gentleman on my podcast, and then we're going to have Richard Reimer come back. So stay with us. But with this, it's so important because our sponsor is Growth Day. Our sponsor, if we want to put a 6 mega trend, it is personal development. And I didn't know this because at age 17, I failed English in high school. I didn't graduate with my high school class. I was picking up range balls when my class was celebrating that accomplishment. And it was kind of my first taste of trauma. I don't know if you just, as a high schooler, you're trying to figure these things out and you flunk English. They used to give you a blank diploma and you'd walk down. So you'd pretend that you would graduate and then they let you go to summer school. Well, this was the first year they didn't do that. So I'm trying to explain to my parents, I'm not going to be, you can't come to the graduation because I'm not going to be walking and I'm not participating. So you get through all that stuff. I tell you that to tell you this. There's a thing, we all know of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a thing called post-traumatic stress growth. And the growth comes from the trauma. So when Christian presented, when I was in a group with him, he was on my podcast, and when you hear his story, living in a concentration camp at age 5, and that kind of messes with you a little bit. But then when I was with him a little bit later and he explained this concept, it kind of summed up my life because growing up dyslexic and ADD, it's a weird combination, but I grew up with a mindset that I was stupid. So every single email that I would send out to people would be misspellings all over the place. So imagine yourself, you're getting ready to send an email. How many misspelled words do you have in that email? Well, they didn't have spell check back then. They didn't have Alexa. They didn't have Siri. They didn't have voice to text. They didn't have the modern technologies, but they did have email. And every email I sent out, I was thinking, oh, am I going to be judged for a label? So you live with trauma your whole kind of adult life, trying to function in a world that judges you on certain things and didn't judge. For myself, dyslexia is my superpower now. Was it back then? Absolutely not. And you don't know these things until later. But I developed an appetite for growth, for personal growth. Back in 1988, I bought Success Motivation Institute, a franchise of growth. My girls will attest to that. There's a thing called TPN, which was the People's Network. It was personal development coming into your home through a satellite. And I would always say, come on, sit down. And they would run and I would try to get them in. They didn't have the same excitement I did about personal growth. So when you hit trauma, and this is for our viewers, that when you're in the middle of a storm, you just got to get through the storm. It's like, and get through it with people. I would isolate myself and man, I would go down into dark places. So I have had that trauma all my life. Now, the good thing about it, I've grown immensely. So you go through trauma, get through the trauma, call somebody, talk to somebody, get help, get a coach, get therapy, whatever it is, get through it. Don't stand still. Ooh, it's hitting an emotional nerve right here. There was days where I would stare at the computer screen all day long. Crazy? No movement? You're gonna struggle. So always move, always grow. And so our sponsor, I want to give a little shout out because I'm totally in with Growth Day. We give you 7 days. I'm ambassador or affiliate, whatever you want to call it, for Growth Day. I've been in it 10 months. I've never missed one daily fire. If you could have the best coach on the planet speaking to you every day and giving you what we call the 5 to thrive and the growth streaks, you can experience life intentionally of growing. Imagine you're an apple, not an Apple computer, but you're an apple. An apple falls off the tree. What happens? It gets rotten and eventually gone. But if it's on the tree growing, it's vibrant, it's healthy, it's juicy. Think of yourself as an apple. You got to keep growing. You got to keep, it's kind of like if you went 2 weeks without a shower, you'd be pretty stinky. If you went 2 weeks without improving, growing, and in Growth Day, you get to grow each day. And what happens when you grow is you thrive. And when you are in a space where you need to grow, you need it even more. But if you decide you want to get it, you can try it for 7 days. You don't even need to put a credit card in there. But if you decide you want to get it, let us know. Send us an email at support@pkane.me, and we'll send you a course on mindset, goals, and habits. It's my course, just my reflection of how important your mindset is. And when you're going through trauma, you need it more than most because your mind plays tricks on you. It's great for you and it's great against you. And if you don't set goals with deadlines and get in a habit of doing it, then you're just going to react to things. And it's so easy in our busyness of life that we react to things. We get up, we check emails. We start getting into other people's priorities. We start reacting. Instead of my philosophy is I get up between 2:30 and 3 every morning, mainly because I communicate with my team. That's 13 hours different. So I have to work. I've been getting up at 5 a.m. my whole life, but I get up at 2:33. I think, I journal, I plan. I think, I journal, and I plan. Now, this is from a guy that if you told me to write a paragraph 10 years ago, I would do anything I could to not write it because I wasn't proficient at that skill. But you do get better over time if you practice it. And now, so I want to encourage you to invest in yourself, invest into growing. And our next speaker is coming back with us. And let me get to the slide because we can't get enough of Richard Reimer because Richard is going to help protect you, protect your assets. And let me go to, I think he did this at a live event, which was, oh shoot, Richard, I know I had you down here. I think here we go. Okay. All right. Richard, welcome back, man. It's so good, man. We could do a whole seminar on really protecting your assets. And I want to encourage you, go get the book. If you're watching this, get the book, Key Persons of Influence. Daniel Priestley, Google him, listen to some of his content. He's going to talk about protecting your assets. And Richard, because you're local, because you are feeding our small business community, it makes it extra special. We don't have to go to the big law firms to protect our asset. We got somebody local, somebody that connects with us. So I won't introduce you again because they already know you. So Richard, welcome back and thanks for sharing with us IPs for entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Pete. And just so you know, I did come from those large law firms. I spent nearly 20 years there. And after a long time, decided that I needed to come out here and be in my own community and support those that live and work in my community, not those people down in Midtown or downtown. So anyhow, glad to be here. Glad to be supporting our small and mid-sized businesses. Earlier, I talked about the why. Why should you protect intellectual property? And so many of us are so busy in the what. What are we doing today? Especially as small business owners, we've got so many hats to wear. If I piqued your interest with the why, you're probably thinking how. That's this presentation. I'm going to tell you how you can start your journey towards intellectual property protection. I really have 3 steps for you to think about. First, know it's yours. Second, make sure you are not the problem. And then finally, let's secure your rights. So starting off with knowing what is yours, for 1 second, I'm going to use a little legalese because I think it actually helps things in the situations. There's 4 different types of assets you need to be thinking of when you think of intellectual property. First is trademarks, and those are the items, the devices that help companies help people identify you specifically. So their names, their taglines, their logos, they could be store layouts, it could be package design, but it helps the public identify you specifically from amongst all your other competitors. The second type of intellectual property you need to understand what you might own is copyright, and those are original creative works. Now, people usually think of the arts and artists when they think of copyright, and that is correct. But within the world of business, there's a lot of copyrightable materials as well. You have your website content, you have promotional materials, photographs, videos, and software. All those items could be protected via copyright. The third category I want to talk about is patents. For the most part, I think of inventions there, but any processes or other types of products that you might have that might be uniquely created by you could be worthy of patent protection. And then finally, trade secrets. Trade secrets are confidential practices or methods that give you an edge, your secret sauce, if you will. It could be as simple as your Rolodex. I'm speaking old school, I understand, or as complex as a specific way that you handle a normal process that your competitors don't handle the same way. So when you're looking at all these things, ask yourself, what's unique about my brand? What have I created that others could copy? Then also, what gives me a competitive advantage? And that'll help you knowing what is yours. Second, make sure you are not the problem. A lot of people think that just because they created something, they have an absolute right to use it. They might think that because they went to the Secretary of State to organize their entity, they have an absolute right to use that name. These are neither one's a true fact. You need to make sure that you are not infringing someone else's intellectual property. This requires you being proactive. There's not a lot that the layperson can do, but Google is a pretty decent starting place. Just do some Google searches to see if the things you're talking about that you think might be yours when you identified when you knew it was yours, make sure other people aren't using the exact same thing, because it could be that you are the one infringing them. So do clearance searches. It's real important. And also be really careful that you don't use images, text, music without the permission of the person that you know that owns it. That could lead you to a whole world of problem. So after you know it's yours, you make sure you're not the problem, let's secure your rights. Again, there's 4 different types of intellectual property. Each one has its own way to secure, in most cases, a registration. With both the trademarks and the patents, you can go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office and get a registration there. Copyrights, there's the U.S. Copyright Office. It's part of the Library of Congress where you can register your copyright. Trade secrets don't have a registration regime that's meant to keep things secret. So really you're thinking about non-disclosure agreements and other confidentiality agreements to protect that. Also, it's not just registration. You want to make sure that you're monitoring to make sure other people aren't using your intellectual property, and when necessary, take action. Ignoring other people's infringements could lead to much bigger problems down the road. So in conclusion, there's 3 different things you need to think about. Knowing what's yours, make sure you're not the problem, and secure your rights. Remember, this is a very important business asset, and you need to really make sure you know what your intellectual property is and you're protecting it appropriately, because it's a huge investment in your business, and you want to make sure that all your hard work is getting properly protected. Again, thanks so much, Pete, for the time today.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for taking the time on a Saturday morning to be with our community and really help them understand the value of their digital assets and why you got to protect them. It's refreshing to know when you can protect something that's unique to you. And we're in the digital economy, so everybody needs to be aware of the power of protecting their assets. So thank you, Richard. Thanks so much. And you'll be able to go into the show notes and you'll get links to Richard's information. So if you're, I want to encourage you to protect yourself. Thank you, Richard. All right, our next speaker. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, here we go. Okay, our next speaker, he is my go-to. Let me see if I can get this up on the screen. When I started streaming live, and I actually met Jim when we did the Kennesaw Business Association. It was a university before COVID. We were teaming up, or to kind of like, it was passed on to me, and I knew Jim was fantastic at streaming. So I asked him if he would team up with me, and we did, but COVID hit and our event just went down. They didn't want to do streaming, and so we didn't have the event. But we kept our relationship alive, and whenever I have anything to do with live streaming, and I'm going to try and go to this, whenever I have anything with live streaming, I call Jim. So I hired him when I'm trying to figure this thing out, and he worked with the person that does our live event at our church to help him understand how to do this. So if you have any needs for live streaming, you're going to want to partner, hire, and have Jim in your camp of people that are experts. And Jim spoke at our live event, so we'll have links to that, and we'll have links to him. And I think I need to bring Jim in because I'm talking about it. So Jim, thank you so much. I actually didn't hardly talk to Jim. I sent him the stuff. I was hoping he would show up, but sometimes when you put things together quickly, you don't have a chance to dot your I's and cross your T's. So Jim, thank you so much for coming to our community with the power of live streaming. So I appreciate you sharing with our community the opportunity of live streaming. Thank you, Jim.
Well, thanks so much, Pete, and it's great to be here this morning. I had to drive from upstairs to downstairs into my studio, and so I think, Pete, you bring up a great point. I mean, gosh, it's hard to believe it was about 5 years ago when all the craziness happened, and we were unbeknownst to us, we were prepared for live streaming because it's something that we had been doing. And so it really set us up for success because, here we are today talking about live streaming. And for us, kind of going to my first bullet point, it's created that genuine human connection because people don't even really think about it. But even when you're doing a Zoom meeting, that is a live stream. You're live. You don't get any takebacks of what you said. Maybe it's not recorded, which is, one of those things that's starting to happen. People are recording things sometimes for repurposing. Now people are even using tools like AI to, get all the words that were said, so they can go back. They can turn it into blog posts, and the human connection piece of that is so important with live streaming because it does build that know, like, and trust. And as a business owner, this medium, video, I would say is the most powerful because, as I like to joke sometimes, we truly are in a situation where the only, I guess, senses you could say we don't have at the moment are touch, taste, and smell. But between augmented and virtual reality, that may change. But you're still capturing the essence and the context of my message. You're seeing my facial expressions. These are things that other mediums don't quite get us to yet, or won't, right? I mean, when you get a text message, sometimes you don't know if that's someone that's angry, someone that's happy, and sometimes your own mood is affected by that. And so that's where, with being live, like yesterday, my friend Chris Stone and I were live with our show Dealcasters, and we're interviewing this young lady, Sarah Losi, about storytelling and how, right now, right, I'm telling you the story of how that went. It was a one of the most fun video events we've done in a while. Lots of laughing, right? Just really good for the soul. But she even talked about how it doesn't have to be like a story of, life and death. I mean, like she said, if I were to tell you a 3-word story like she said yes, you kind of know where that story is going. And so as we do this video, as we're building these relationships with our viewers, that is what's going to help us connect. And so as a business, right, as much as we want to tell the facts and figures of what we've done, of what we're doing, really, we're giving people a chance to be educated about what we do. And so, that's what I think is great about what you're doing with this series, Pete, is it's not just about each of us as speakers being able to talk about what we do, but we're also, getting educated ourselves. We're getting to know, like, and trust the other speakers, whether we were in the same room like we were last week, or even now while we're going over video. And so I will say a couple things, just a couple, words of advice is if you are going to do this stuff and podcast Pete, right, which is probably appropriate in some ways, this as well, is make sure that you have good audio. Your microphone is so important because sometimes there might be people right now that are watching this that are actually wandering around and they're listening to our words and what we're saying. So definitely invest in a good microphone. It doesn't mean that it has to be expensive. There are lots of microphones that are very reasonably priced that you can use. And then, StreamYard is a great video platform to use. There's others as well, right? But even when you're on a Zoom call, you want to make sure you have good audio. I wear in-ear monitors right now so that my audio isn't bleeding back into the microphone. That's when you get that feedback. And so I just want to thank you again, Pete, for letting me share a little bit about some of the reasons why people should think about live streaming and love what you're doing to help people in our community.
And thank you, Jim. Thanks so much for, all your help over the last few years, 3, 4, 5 years, because I think we all have to have professionals in our circle. And when you have people that you can call and get the advice and have them come to your assistance, it just gives you confidence that you have the best to take care of your situation. And you have many times, Jim. So thank you so much. And the spur of the moment too. I was like this morning, I don't even know if Jim's going to show up because I didn't really talk to him about it, but we put this together fairly quick, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to do it. People that sit and wait for perfection, they never do anything. And so maybe because I'm far from
Well,
perfect, just
but I
launch
think,
it.
yeah, but Pete, you bring up a great point. That's the whole thing about live streaming, right? We're not,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this 5 or 6 times to get it right. You're getting the real me. If I have ums and ahs, if we stumble, this is us talking real. This is no different than us sitting in a coffee shop or sitting up at the American Legion during the third Saturday of the month for breakfast, having a conversation. And so if
Mhm.
people, when they're live streaming, can think about, hey, just be you, just talk like you would talk to a person. You're just talking to the camera. You're going to get over that fear.
Yes, so true. Thank you, Jim. We'll
Thank
put
you.
Jim's information in the show notes. So I don't have his right up on the screen because multitasking is not my forte. So we'll have somebody that will do this in the future, but you just can get a hold of Jim. You need live streaming, you need an expert in your corner, you got to call Jim. So thank you, Jim. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you,
here
Pete.
Saturday morning. Let's figure out what I'm going to do. Here we go. Our next speaker. Oh my. I'm going to tell you a story about her. And let me get her screen up here. Let me get her slide. Hold on here, because I want you to know this person is special. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Krista was on my podcast with Kayla probably 2 years ago. I don't know, a year and a half ago. And when they entered the studio, I was over at Overture at the time doing all seniors. Is I noticed the chemistry between the two of them. I noticed the ease of just being with somebody, and I just kind of like, oh my gosh, that you can't make this stuff up. It just you either have it or you don't, or you learn it. And so when we were looking for somebody that would really help us amplify social media, I got a hold of Krista to really talk about the future because we have not really exercised our social media muscle. So I had her on a podcast, just last week, I think, or something. And her philosophy and her leadership with her team is something you want in your business because it's all about we're getting into this crazy AI stuff. And, sometimes you won't know who's real and who isn't. But what you will know is if you're a leader. And Krista is a leader. She's a leader of her company. She's done wonderful things in just how she balances a mom, a wife, a business owner. She does this with ease because she's transparent and she's good at what she does. So, I need to put Krista in. So here we go. So, Krista, thank you so much for being with us. And I would love for you to share with our viewers, that why is social media amplification important for our community? So, thanks so much for being here, Krista.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a little bit of kickback on my side of stuttering. I was going to say if I lose you for a second, that's why. But so amplification. I mean, I could talk about this whole 5-minute time frame just with follow-up and touch base on what Jim and Pete have already said about relationships and word of mouth and building the community and having authentic relationships with people. I will back off of Jim from a live streaming perspective. The beauty of live streaming is that, like he mentioned, you set up and it can kind of live forever on your social media platforms. And that's really where social media amplification comes into play. So strategic word of mouth. I like to say that the social network is the biggest word of mouth platform. It's the networking group that you could ever imagine being a part of. I'll kind of kick it off with that. If you're not on, that is the opportunity that you're missing out on. Another point that Jim and Pete brought up is that it doesn't have to be perfect. And that is so true beyond anything on, because what people are looking for is that authentic, organic connection. And again, I mentioned many times already, they want to work with people they know and trust. And that's the power of social media, is to who you are and why people should trust you or your team. If it's for you want to, build that community around your team, like and trusting your team. And so that's the power of amplifying your message through social. And then again, that touches on the leveraging content. You can leverage behind the scenes content, interesting things that you and your team joke about the time. Or, maybe they don't happen all the time. Maybe snakes in an attic at a home inspection. You're like, wow, this is unusual. So building that relationship with your followers, people who might not know you, so that they feel as if they know you. And it's very much becoming more relevant literally by the day. We saw in real time how important even TikTok platform, which is traditionally a younger generation, but even just the threat of that shutdown, it lasted maybe 14, 15 hours, that really proved how valuable social media was our generation, but the coming generation. So again, every day social media becomes more valuable. And I am a huge fan of using it, not abusing it. And in art, I mean, you want to be a contributor versus constantly consuming it. And Pete and I have talked about this many times. Is I actually hate relationship with social media because I see the negative power that it could have. And so this in my business, and really actually the motivator my business was realizing the power that social media had for local businesses and how it could be in a positive light to help them further relationships with their community and build new relationships with people that they've never met. So that kind of touches digital assets. We've talked again with Jim and with Pete as far as using content, but having the creativity to make content is sometimes hard. So I'll iterate again, it does not have to be perfect. It can be you talking an interesting fact. Again, as ready, it could be behind the scenes on a job. It could be your staff. It could be celebrating birthdays together, pictures of a corporate company event. So really just leveraging the content that you already have and just putting that on social media that your community really has a feel who you are and they have that personal relationship with you. So I would say that's simplification. Pete, I'd love to answer any questions though that you have. I know I'm a little bit short on time here, but social media is pretty straightforward. I could go on for 40 minutes or I could stop at 4.
Well, I tell you, it's, we're going to put your replays in the show notes because they, you do need to explore. I always say everything needs to be on a need to learn. And if you need to learn about social media amplification and the advantages of it, you got to pursue your educational curiosity, because just doing it on your own and figuring out is not a strategy. That's kind of like me trying to fix a plumbing pipe and the consequences to me being not a professional at doing something. And you are, and I'm just amazed at just how you work with your team. And I've just noticed there's just the leadership there. And it's so important to have just from a business owner, because we're all business owners. We all want to be that key person of influence, because the internet's changing. You have to have content out there. And if you don't have a strategy to amplify your social media, you're missing opportunities. So Krista, thank you so much for, when I told her Saturday morning, she goes, "Man, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I can't do it." I said, "Just 5 minutes?" And I said, so I promised her just to come in around 10 o'clock and she could be off doing her mom duties and her wife duties and her weekend duties. So thank you so much, Krista, for being
Absolutely. Anytime, Pete. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, our next speaker. Oh, yes. Man, I've been waiting for this one. Let me see if I can get him on the screen here. So this gentleman, Jim said we go to the American Legion on the third Saturday. We actually changed our live event to the fourth Saturday because, let me try to I know where his slide is. So we tried to, all right, let me talk, and there we go. Okay, so we go and we're having breakfast, and the table next to him with all his friends, the table was full that day. So he sits next to me and we're talking. I don't know what it was, but it was something about the word podcast. And the guy I was with, Terry, when he said something that he would want to kind of do some podcasting, of course my ears lit up and said to Terry, and Terry said, "Hey, that's podcast feed," or something ridiculous like that. And so that started a kind of a connection, a relationship. And it's been a great one. I just enjoy being around somebody that values relationships. And more important than that, we're in the biggest shift we're going to ever see in our lifetime. There's going to be, because of AI, because of a lot of things, there's going to be a shift from the corporate professional to do something on their own. You always got to think like an entrepreneur, because big companies, there's a few exceptions, they kind of run like big government, because people are afraid to say something. They're afraid to really innovate because they don't want to get fired, whatever it is. So you don't operate just doing stuff, but Phil does. He's built relationships his whole life. and he has an impersonation. I mean, he does one of Trump. I laugh every time I hear him because I keep telling him, keep talking. So we've had a wonderful time in this journey. So our third avatar is corporate professionals that want to transfer a life of freedom and entrepreneurship. Phil is going to share with you the skills he learned in his 45 plus years of, I think that's right, of being in corporate America. He's the father of 4 daughters, so he understands women, and that's a good thing. Because they're more emotional than our guys. So we have had fun talking. I have 2, so he has 4, so he's got me beat there. But we have fun times. So, oh shoot, let me get Phil up on the screen. I always talking. So Phil, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. Would you please share with our community that mindset matters and how important it is to cover these 3 points for our corporate professionals out there?
I certainly would, but first I've got to fact check you on 2 things. I was still in high school 45 years ago, so it's been 35 years.
Okay.
And I got to go a little more in depth on the Legion story. Actually, what I said to Pete was, and I felt like Foster Brooks on the Dean Martin Comedy Hour. Do you listen to podcasts? And his buddy over there, Terry, I guess, is the one that pointed to your shirt, and which I couldn't see the side of your shirt, and it said podcast Pete. And I went, okay, I guess I'm in the right spot.
Hey,
So
look.
that's how it came about. And speaking of the Legion, Mark Johnson, our mutual friend, gave me this yesterday as a memoriam of our trip over to Sea Island at the Heritage Foundation weekend a few weeks back. And he found it online. He gave it to me. It's a bottle opener, but it's a soldier, and you open your drinks right here in this opening. But yeah, he found it online, so I thought that was kind of neat. Ties in with the Legion and a lot of things. But yeah, we'll wait for the Trump later. But
Yes.
to get to what you were talking about, I still work in corporate America. I'm in a very great business. We're in the commercial flooring business, and nothing wrong with that at all. But I think what you see getting ready to happen here with the advent of AI and a lot of other things, and we see a lot of I call it Moneyball happening around us. If anybody's familiar with that movie, came out. It was the story of the early 2000s venture of Billy Beane, who's a baseball executive from the Oakland A's, and he was basically tasked with putting together a competitive team on the field after he'd already had a lot of success with like a $38 million payroll. Meanwhile, the Yankees have a $200 million payroll, and all these other teams he's got no money to work with. So what he has to do is go get undervalued people to replace the ones he's losing. And it created a scenario where, and I'm a big fan of his, so it's not an indictment on his style. It's just companies sometimes think that you can do dumb things faster, to use my buddy Brian Burns' comment. Food technology. Technology is wonderful. Technology makes us do things a lot more efficiently than we did. I mean, look at email. When I first came into the world of business, email was not really a thing. I remember we used to do proposals by hand. We would go deliver proposals by hand in the late 80s, construction proposals. And then, fax machines came along. We'd always go the next day and deliver a hard copy, because back then it was thermal faxes. And the printing would go away after a year. You open the file, there's what happened to the print, So the world's changed a lot for the better, and we're doing things so much quicker than we used to. Look at AI. We don't understand it fully. We better get to where we understand it, because you'll get run over by it if you don't. But my point here is there's still always room for relationships, and we're humans. We're collegial creatures. We want to be in groups. We typically don't work well alone. And in order to do that, that's how you create relationships. You got to have them up and down the food chain of people you're calling on, who your prospects are, and you got to have them up and down the food chain of the people you work with. If you don't, you're going to find yourself on an island, and you're going to wonder what happened one day when you wake up yodeling in the canyon and no one's listening. And that's kind of where we're at in a lot of companies is we're transitioning from a corporate mindset to where, everyone thinks the same, everything's homogenized. An entrepreneurial mindset is more of a problem solving mindset. Sales is a performance profession. It is not, a task profession where you're doing measurables all the time. Everyone loves to get into the CRM and the dashboards and the metrics and say, oh, if I do this many activities this quickly, it's a numbers game to them. You're going to have this many sales out of this many contacts. Well, that may work for certain industries, but in industries where the sales is a little more complex, where the ticket item is a little bigger, and where the relationship is more important, that really doesn't work. What you're really after is trying to create an avenue where you can get into that person's mind space and get them comfortable with you to where they trust you. Sales and marketing and buying things are all about trust. Would you buy a car from someone you do not trust? And that's another industry just like the one I'm in, where trust has been lost over the years because it's always, well, he's got to lose so I can win. That's not really a good mindset to have. The other guy's got to win some too for them to really feel like that they're comfortable in your relationship. So trust is at the core of any relationship, whether it's your family, whether it's a business relationship, whether it's any kind of transaction. If you don't trust the other person, you can't really have a long-term relationship with them. The second point was the use of humor. Fortunately, I've been able to get to the table sometimes when nothing else would work. I had a friend one time that did this. I never had the gumption to do it, but he had been calling this customer here in Atlanta for years and could never get an appointment. Pretty big client. So at Christmas one year, he sends a shoe in a box, goes out and buys a pair of shoes and sends a shoe in a box to this gentleman. This is 20 years ago. And I thought this was ballsy as all get out. And he had a note in there, a personal note in there, just trying to get my foot in the door. Well, guess who called him the next week? Laughing. That client. And it took him a while, but eventually he did get his foot in the door and he got that guy's business. And, just the use of humor, you don't have to be that dramatic about it. But if you can make someone laugh, that's what's called tacit approval. If you can get them to laugh, you typically can get them to listen a little bit deeper and dig in a little bit deeper. So that's how you can use humor in a sales situation to just take it beyond here's a sales guy or a sales gal. I need to go listen to them, or they're making me come in here and eat a free lunch while they pitch their stuff. But if you can make people laugh, it really does break the ice and help you get to the next level. And then the third point was getting back to face-to-face meetings after COVID. That's a challenge for all of us. No matter what you're doing, remote work became the rule. Now everyone's going back in the office, and it's just going to force hopefully more face-to-face transactions. I think that people are craving it, quite frankly. Zoom calls and Teams meetings, and oh my God, we've had a belly full of it. And there's nothing like sitting across from someone and being able to read the body language, seeing how they react to what you're saying. And also it helps you, in my opinion, it helps you relax because you're with another human being. You're not looking at a screen all the time. And screens are great and they're efficient in some respects, but there's nothing like that interpersonal call where you're on one of the table and they're on the other, or it's a multiple group of folks. That's your audience, that you're able to get a personal connection. You can't achieve that over a screen. You're very limited. So that was really the three things I wanted to hit on. And I don't know where our moderator went, but he might have
Back in.
he might be in the deep state.
I was just taking
Really
notes,
unbelievable.
taking it in. I love the foot in the door, man. That is so good.
How about that? I never told you that story. It's a friend of mine named Paul Murphy, not even in my industry anymore. I can talk about him. He's probably selling reverse annuities down in Florida. Old ladies, knowing him. But that was brilliant. I really thought that was kind of a stroke of brilliance. But Yeah, I'll leave you with this. We had a big first week, Pete. It's really amazing what's happening, but we're going to continue the pace, and I just hope everyone else can keep up with it.
I love it. I love it. And, I think it's so important to have humor in everything. We talk about being bold, make an impact, and have fun. You know what? If you can't have fun at something, then, yeah, you're doing it wrong. And I guess that's probably why we've had some fun. I will tell people it was funny because um, I think public speaking is the second biggest fear to dying. And I think humor in public speaking is leapfrogs over that, because if people don't laugh at your jokes, you're exposed. And you did
Oh,
that
yeah.
open mic at the Legion, and I got stuck in traffic, so I didn't get to see it. But what stuck out in my mind is the people that came up afterwards and just thanked you for putting yourself out there. I mean, we all think that we would love to be able to communicate, but when you communicate with humor, if nobody laughs, you're just stuck, and you do. And it was just so good to see that somebody would put themselves out there, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, but just having some fun with people at the Legion. It was great to see. I look forward to getting another time where I can kind of just enjoy the moment, because even myself is like, I was thinking like, man, would I do that? And what my answer was? No. And it's kind of like, we have that fear. And if we don't embrace courage and squish the fear, fear will own us, and it owns us in a lot of things. So you do it in one area and you get the courage, it helps you in another areas. So maybe one day I'll be on open mic at the Legion. So thank you, Phil. I
Put
would
it
give
this way, it was good the band was good that night. So, I pivoted.
Hey, look, we can't do it alone. We always have to have others. So
That's
that's
right.
just testimony to, embrace the group. So thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate you
My
being with
pleasure.
us. All right. So now we're going to do this. We're going to change. We're winding down, but I wanted to give you, for those that have hung around, I want to give you our master class, because our master class is 10 steps to scale and grow your business by 10x and more. This is our gift to you, because every single step in our master class, which is part of our ecosystem, is scalable. From the assessments, number one, which is Daniel Priestley with Key Strategic Partners and his scorecard marketing and his entrepreneur revolution. He's a phenomenal teacher of scaling your business. And you got to have these assets if you want to really scale your business and take advantage of the digital economy. So you get that masterclass. You don't have to put your name, anything. You just get it for free. Now, I want to do one thing. I am over, so I'm going to be, I always like to start on time and end on time. Well, there's always exceptions to the rule. So let me give you the exception today. I'm going to be with you for a few more minutes, and I think I can get to slide number 12. Okay, hold on here. There we go. Okay. Our community, we have my partners up in Canada, Jeff Bourgeois. So when I met him 8 years ago and I was in his mastermind, I never dreamed that fast forward 10 years that I would get to know a person, be in business with them. But you never know when you start a relationship where it's going to end. Jim was on here earlier. We just hang out. We're going to do KBA University. That falls, that goes downhill, but we continue talking. We continue, having fun with just the evolution of technology. I hire him to do live streaming, help me with that. And it just kept going. And we don't know when we start something where it's going to end. We want to help each person become a key person of influence. So that's our community. Now, you can earn and grow. Now, how do you do that? We give people 15% as an ambassador to bring people to us. We want you to experience it first, because if you're not aligned with who you are, and what you're doing, you don't recommend. But when you believe something, when you believe you have a cure to cancer, you're not going to hold it in and not tell anybody. So we want to bring people to our community that want to be key persons of influence. We have our February 5th will be 3 years that I had a stroke. Now, when I had a stroke, I was an avid runner. Was in 20 to 25 peach trees. I played golf 5 days a week. After I'd get up at 5 o'clock, I'd work like crazy. Then I'd go to the golf course as my energy kept going down. I'd get on the golf course and it would just kind of pump me up. Well, I haven't played golf except a few times, and I haven't run because I can't, but I have changed, pivoted. And when I say pivot, I get up early. I think, I journal, and I plan. And I was never that kind of person. But you just never know with the cards that you get dealt, how you got to play those cards. You can't give them back and say, deal me another set of cards. Whatever you get, you got to deal with it. So it started a 3-year journey of learning to walk, talk, eat, shower, go to the bathroom, all these things that you kind of assume that you can do. When you can't do them, I'll tell you what, it's an eye opener. So we're starting February the 5th. We start our authoritative book, 12-week transformation. We're going to transform you. We're going to get you we're going to activate your authoritative book. You'll be part of a collaborative magazine of KPIs, and you'll be in a community of 20 people. 20 people, because you got to have accountability. If you're on the same journey with 20 people, you encourage each other, you push each other, you just are with them during the journey. So we're going to start, and this is part of our ambassador program. So I didn't have time to go over our ecosystem and why it's so important, but we'll be putting out other videos. I want to be respectful of our viewers and our people, that we do it from 9 to 10:30, 1 hour and a half. So if you want to get more, you can take an assessment, and that's at petekane.me. That's our number one step. If you want to see more about our magazine, which is on here, you can see what our collaborative magazine, our goal is 100 is our minimum goal this year, and our max is 250. So this is magazines, because you got to combine digital with print. We still got people out there that get newspapers, but you can't just automatically go to everything digital. You have to have, people like to touch and feel it. And if you go to Kennesaw Magazine, if you go to petekane.me/magazine, you'll see this magazine, which is Kennesaw Happenings, and Phil's in it. I think Jim's in it. I'm trying to think. I don't even know. There's 32 people in it. We had to have a sample of it, but you can get it from Amazon. Just type into Google and Amazon Kennesaw Happenings. You can get the magazine. It'll talk about our 10 ecosystem, and it'll have 32 stories. We take stories. People remember stories. That's why I love podcasting so much, is you get to learn, you get to grow, you get to enjoy other people's stories. And so that's part of it. So you can earn and grow. You can be part of our community, and you can be part of our Kennesaw, our Key Strategic Partners magazine, or we call it Key SP, which is Key Strategic Partners. If you can imagine a magazine with 19 of your key strategic partners in that magazine with you, because you can't do it alone, you do it with a team, and that can be your team. It's 12 weeks. It starts February 5th. We have signups now, and if you go to petekane.me/opportunity, there'll be more about that. And then how you can invest in yourself, which invests in your transformation over 12 weeks. So we'll be more on this, but I was, the first time you run a little bit over. So I want to thank our viewers, thank our speakers too. Every single week, we're going to bring you 10 speakers and 15 talks. The fourth week of the month will be live at, let me see if I can put this up on the screen. Our live is, you can go to pk.me/live. Our next one is the 22nd of February. And we do this, we always want to connect with people. So if you look at another way to connect, if you go to pk.me/connect, we connect weekly, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And that's when we bring people in to connect, to build relationships. Business is about relationships, authentic relationships. And just like Phil talked about, we got to get back to meeting people, talking to people. That's why we do a live event. We do a virtual event too. So it's a combination of both. But we're emotional people, we're relationship people, and that's why it's so important to get to know people. So thank you so much. I want to thank our speakers. I appreciate you being there. We were a little bit over. Thank you. I want you to have an awesome Saturday, awesome week. So be bold, make a difference, and have fun. Be bold, make a difference.